we think, really to move this world forward, there needs to be a large segment of vehicles that are focused on efficiency. And we focus on efficiency first, and we think that it just makes the value proposition incredible. Hey, zero fuel cost transportation, that will change the world.
Thank you to Bespoke Post for sponsoring this episode.
Bespoke Post is a membership club that delivers boxes of top shelf goods to you every month.
It's free to join. The box lineup changes every month based on a preference quiz that members fill out when signing up.
Every month, they introduce members to new products, outdoor gear, barware, and clothing, all sorts of cool items.
Each box has around $70 in value, but you only pay a fraction of the price.
We received the Weekender. It's a high-quality bag made of canvas. It feels really special, it's a great size, and it's super durable.
We also got the Filet, which includes an 8-inch knife and a 4-inch knife.
Yeah. These knives are some of the best feeling knives I've ever felt. I've been really impressed using them to prep meals. And again, super high quality. They feel really good in your hand. And I'm sure these knives are going to last for years.
And I got the Forge. This Damascus steel handmade knife is created by folding micro layers of steel, producing a blade that's durable yet easy to sharpen. This beautifully crafted knife is made by Buck and Bear Knives, located in Pennsylvania.
In fact, 90% of the products from Bespoke Post come from small brands, many of which are based right here in the U.S.
And you only pay for what you want.
You'll get a box assigned to you each month based on the quiz you take when signing up. And before it's shipped, you'll get a preview of what comes inside to decide if you'd like to, 1, keep it, 2, swap it for a different box on offer, or 3, skip the box entirely for absolutely no charge.
You only pay for what you want, plus the box lineup changes every month.
Head on over to bespokepost.com/NYK20 and use code NYK20 to learn more and get 20% off your first box. All right, well, we're so lucky to have with us today the co-CEO, Chris Anthony, and the head of solar, Anuj Thakkar from Aptera. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us. Looks like you guys have your shades on.
Awesome to be with you. The future is so bright at Aptera.
Some exciting news, I guess, going on at Aptera. We just heard about a few days ago that you have a new partnership. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, we have an amazing new partnership with CPC in Italy. They build some structures for amazing supercars that you've seen throughout the years. And now we've partnered with them to make our beautiful body and carbon monocoque structure for production. Really a way that we can scale production, like we never thought possible with our old composite technologies. And now moving into production with them, we just see a bright future and really being able to crank these Apteras out.
So Sandy Munro was on the video talking about how he really was impressed with that technology. Can you tell us more about, why go with carbon fiber? It sounds super expensive.
Carbon fiber is a bit more expensive than other materials you could use, obviously, but you get the great benefits of lightweight and strength. And from Sandy's point of view, it's also a coefficient of thermal expansion problem, that when you use materials with large coefficients of thermal expansion, it makes it really hard when you get to the production floor in aligning things and tolerancing things together. Notoriously in steel vehicles, once you weld them, they start to bend and twist, and that's why you see videos of vehicles made in the 70s and they're putting 2x4s in the doors and pressing the hinges back so they can get the doors to align. With a body in carbon, that just doesn't exist. You're basically taking a rock out of a mold and putting it, on a pedestal to bond the other pieces to it. And it's just dimensionally accurate to the nth degree. You see some of the supercars that CPC builds and the quality is just immaculate. And that's what we hope for our Aptera builds in the future.
Is there anything to be worried about? I remember back in the day, people loved their BMW i3s, but then they would get into the slightest little fender bender and they'd have to throw away the whole car because it was totaled, basically like a 5-mile-an-hour collision. Is this something we're going to have to worry about with Aptera?
We have taken into account, those kind of fender bender type accidents. We have a separate kind of rear piece. We have a nose cone piece, and obviously our wheels are outboard. So, you would change the wheel cover, if you got into a fender bender or something like that. But the structure being so strong has huge benefits, in low speed accidents and kind of, the dings and scratches you get in parking lots and, grocery carts rolling into your Aptera. They just aren't a thing. Think of like the Saturn of years ago. They had SMC door panels. They were glass SMC, not carbon SMC, but they'd whack them with a sledgehammer and nothing would happen to the door panel. We're taking that to kind of the next level in terms of strength. So really it's about lightweightness and having our large organic shapes that can be super aerodynamic, but on the other side of that, we think is a very, very durable product that will hopefully stand the test of time and be a vehicle that will last for generations, not years.
Now, I got to be honest, one of the things that really first attracted me to the Aptera was the solar, right? Having this vehicle that is so efficient and that can run off the sun, I was like, yes. But then I started getting a little skeptical. That's probably just me. But I was like, are they going to actually be able to pull off solar all over this weirdly shaped body? So Anuj, tell me, what has it been like trying to get solar on there? Where are you guys today with that technology?
You're absolutely right. One of the greatest challenges with getting solar on this vehicle is trying to build solar panels that will both match the complex geometry of the vehicle, but will also last 10, 15 years as our target. So a number of folks will say, oh, it's been done before. You see these solar race cars that college students build. But what a lot of folks don't realize, first of all, is the curvature on those vehicles is very slight in many cases, but they're also definitely not built for long-term reliability. So a number of these folks will, they'll run their race and pull it back in and just protect it, wiping it with a nice microfiber cloth or something of that nature to protect it. And any kind of small impact, you tap on it, you break it. But we've actually been able to do a couple of things in order to achieve two-axis curved solar that lasts that 10 to 15 year range. So first, we actually announced a partnership with Maxeon recently. Maxeon is an industry leader in solar, so they produce a cell type that's called an interdigitated back contact, which essentially means the contacts are on the back of the cell, and you're able to get an incredibly significant amount of flexibility from the cell with a very thin footprint while still using a silicon-based cell type. So a number of folks will ask, well, hey, when you start to go to the semi-flexible cell type, don't you sacrifice efficiency? And typically that's actually the case. You start to look at thin film cell types or other cell technologies, and you almost always have a trade. But we're actually able to leverage this technology that uses a monocrystalline or silicon cell type and matches this two-axis curvature in our lamination process to get very high efficiency cells in the panel. So that's one thing that's definitely added a lot of value to our technology. The second is actually developing what we call a lamination stack. So our solar panel actually consists of 9 different layers. You may look at it and say, that doesn't look like there are 9 different layers in a stack. But solar cells are actually incredibly susceptible to environmental conditions, as I mentioned earlier. So for example, you want to protect against water vapor transmission. You don't want the cells to corrode due to what's in the air really intruding on that solar cell. So we have to use laminate materials that will block the environment from the cell, while also including layers that have very high light transmission and a very low coefficient of thermal expansion. What that's actually led us to do is create a 9-layer stack up that together offers all of the benefits that you might need for protecting the solar cells, with actually about 50% of the weight of what might be commonly used in the industry or otherwise used. So obviously we've designed a vehicle that has an efficiency first kind of mantra in the design, and so we wanted to design a curved panel that would also be lightweight so that we could lean into the efficiency of the vehicle. Where we're at today, we've passed reliability on the medium scale for 10 to 15 years. We have ongoing testing for the full scale panels, and I'm actually sitting right in front of our low volume production line here. So we've developed new production processes, filed, I think it's about 16 to 18 patent applications on our solar technology, and we are producing panels using our production process, trying to ensure that we have a very stable process that has a very high yield, and we're improving the process, integrating that into our what we call manufacturing execution system, so that we have really good traceability on the manufacturing line of components, their sources. We can track down any issues in the process, and we're building a robust manufacturing process that can scale for high volume next year.
So when we talk about solar, I mean, obviously most people's interactions with solar are either, a big fenced off area of like a big grid scale solar, or on their house, on their roofs. And people are starting to learn that some of the early installs of solar roofs weren't as efficient as they could be. When you have different pitches and you have solar panels on different pitches of the roofs, and if they aren't optimized properly and strung the right way, then you don't end up with the most optimal solar collection. How do you account for that on a vehicle that not only has, a back and a front, which are obviously in different planes, but then also curved sections where every cell is going to be getting a slightly different exposure to the sun?
It's absolutely true that mismatched shading or mismatched lighting conditions does change the output of a panel. Now, inherently, a vehicle will never be in the most optimal position for solar. You're driving it north, you're driving it south. In some of our actual driving tests, what you might expect is true in that in the northern hemisphere, you drive up a south-facing hill and you get the most power output. But we're actually able to have some accommodations in the design of the panel itself to better optimize for a vehicle scenario. So what we're actually able to do is electrically separate different strings into zones of the vehicle. So what you'll actually see is one area of the vehicle may be getting more light than another, but those two different zones are actually performing a power conversion in isolation from one another. So you actually won't hinder production of your solar power in one part of the vehicle just because another isn't necessarily facing the same lighting conditions. It's led us to create a pretty elaborate charge controller that has several different zones to convert that power to high voltage, but it definitely helps improve the efficiency.
And so we also have to face challenges of actually driving the vehicle while it's charging. So you can imagine like driving by a semi-truck and it shades half of your panels as you drive by. So our solar charge controller has to react really quickly to those conditions. And that's why we've broken it up into several zones, per panel. And then the charge controller can make decisions. Okay, this is receiving more light, take the maximum power from that. This is receiving less light, take, the maximum power from that at a lower charge. But I think it's a compliment to our electrical engineering team on how well that works. It has extreme conversion efficiency compared to other solar devices, and I think it's it's an amazing piece of our solar puzzle.
Yeah, I love working with the electrical team because every time we get a new, are performing a new test or get new boards in, they like to say, it'll be 5-6 weeks before we test this or before we've validated this component. And then the next day I get a text message, oh, it all worked perfectly. They all start cheering.
Engineers like to build in buffer.
But I think it's also a testament to the really good work that they've been doing.
Will users get to, as they say, park it in their driveway, get to see something that tells them like, oh, if I turn my vehicle like 15 more degrees that way, it would maximize things? Is there some way that we can give feedback to drivers?
We've actually been working on some UI concepts on actually how to do that. There are absolutely ways that we can collect the information and share the information that allows you to see, okay, what is the best, angle to point your vehicle, but also best inclination to also point your vehicle. So we're doing some initial tests and integration of that UI at this point, while also going out into the real world to collect and validate this data. We'll figure out or define a bit later whether that's in our launch vehicle, but it's absolutely something that we'll be looking into for longer term integration.
Yeah, our user interface will be terribly unique because, Aptera being the most efficient transportation device ever, people are really going to care about how they use their energy per mile. And we want to give them lots of information about where their energy is going. But on the flip side, it's the first vehicle to ever actually create its own fuel. So people are really going to care about, every photon that's turned into an electron, people are really going to care about. So we want to give them a lot of data on, how they're producing electricity and also hopefully gamify the system so they can see how other people in the Aptera community around them are producing electricity and hopefully compete to make the most power with their Aptera and do cool things with that power.
Yeah, I know that when I'm out myself testing it, it's a lot of fun. I start playing games with myself. It's like, oh, what if we go park on that hill over there? We're going to get more. And I didn't expect it myself, but, I remember the first time we started doing this, it's like, oh, there's a cloud coming. Oh, watch it drop.
That's so cool. I mean, you could even have like ramped parking spaces where it's like southern, facing south, and you just like whoop, and then park, and then you get the most sunlight every day. That's so cool. What a fun thing. Let's face it, we park cars 95% of the time. Just the parking is now more fun. Instead
Yeah.
of like, I put it over here. Hopefully nobody hits it. Now you're thinking like, it's doing something while I leave. How fun.
We foresee a future where people are bringing like RV ramps to their workplace so they can, get another 10-degree angle, while they're parked for work. So some very cool possibilities.
Can you imagine we're all around the water cooler like, so where'd you park today?
Yeah, I know.
What can users expect to get for a real world range out of their solar panels? Have you been able to get any numbers yet?
Yeah, I mean, we actually still hold to that up to about 40 miles of range. So it's definitely realistic based on what we're seeing in some of our test data.
When you make the cells more robust, you take down their efficiency.
You do, yeah.
Every layer that you put over these cells decreases their efficiency. So I think Anuj looked at the initial problem and he was like, you can take 20% of the power production right off the top because I'm going to have to put all this stuff over these cells to make them safe. And we said, well, how about we give you a couple more cells? And he's like, oh, well, that would help. So we've added to the solar cells and he's optimized his laminates so it's not a 20% hit. And I think we've kind of struck a nice balance to where we're kind of back where we started from.
Yeah, the other note there is that you really are going to have variable output throughout the year. In the winter, when you're really not getting as much sun, the output does get reduced a little bit. But then in the summer, where you have much longer days, you'll be able to get much more solar. So I'm looking forward to some of our continued testing over the next several months. We're collecting data right now. I'm going to continue testing that in a real world constant driver over the next several months to get that solar output.
Yeah, the cool thing is we can run kind of a baseline here, but the NREL data, National Renewable Energy Labs, has very good insolation data for all around the world. Yep. We can basically plot power production for any day of the year, any place in the world, which is a great tool for future Aptera owners.
Now, as you get closer to production, I got to imagine if I was CEO, I'd be worried that maybe I couldn't put solar on the first vehicles, that it would bring the price up too much. How definite are you that solar is going to go in these things from the very beginning, or would it possibly be something that we'd get later on as an option?
Yeah, another challenge for Anuj's team. We're like, we want all the solar. He's like, whoa, we don't want to build all the solar. The fact is that about 80% of our customers want all the solar.
Yeah.
So, we feel it's important to launch the vehicle with all the solar. That's our aspiration. We have many months to challenge Anuj's team to get that done. But as he said, we're producing 10 panels a day now.
Yep.
He's built all the different various panels, the hood, the dash, the roof, and the tail. He's already gone through that exercise. So I think it feels very tangible now that we won't be just delivering Apteras with solar dashes. We will be delivering Aptera with full solar from the beginning.
Now, here's a tough one. I am a big fan of Arcimoto, another three-wheeled electric vehicle. They're having some troubles right now, especially ramping up production. They have plenty of people like your company that love their product and want to get the product. Are you worried that you're going to be in a similar situation where a production just takes longer than you think? I mean, Elon talks about it all the time, how it's just a way harder problem than we all think. Where are you at in that process?
I should have little bracelets made, what would Sandy do? That's kind of, our fallback on all these types of broad questions. We're talking about how do we get our battery pack into production? Well, the final battery pack review was just done by Sandy's team. Okay, we have, a pin in that. We're going to, production with this design because Sandy's reviewed it and, it's commoditized and it's manufacturable. Same thing with Sandy's team helping solar. Same thing with Sandy's team helping, CPC execute on the body structures. So in kind of all these pieces, I think we have very good resources on the design for manufacturability, which will hopefully quell a lot of the, manufacturing headaches. I would say if you're a company, out there trying to scale, try and engage Sandy's team because he will save you a lot of heartache. There is the only built here mentality. You only want to trust your own engineers, and kind of going outside is uncomfortable. This is my 8th startup. I've never been blessed with the kind of knowledge that Sandy has given Aptera with my other companies. And just like we have a manufacturing execution system operating at Solar, which gives us a data-driven manufacturing environment from the start. And to have that in my other companies would have just been amazing. But we've had the foresight and consultation from Sandy and Pablo and his team that have just said, start it right, start the factory to build 10,000 a year, run a second shift to build 20,000 a year. Don't start building 1 a day and then try to ramp it to 2 a day, because then you're asking everybody on the floor to double production and their heads explode. They go, I can't produce twice as much. You're crazy. Then you want to go to 4 a day. Oh my God, I'll never get to see my kids. Start the plant building 40 vehicles a day and buy all the infrastructure, buy all the equipment, buy all the tooling, train the people to build 40 a day and execute on that. And I think that's what we're pacing to do here in the next few months.
We feel pretty lucky here on the show because we have all these spies that we send out. They're basically our viewers, and our spies have been in your vehicle and have sent back really glowing reports. We had one guy, I think he was like 6'5", and he was like, I was really worried because I have one on order and I didn't know if I'd fit. And then he reported back, I fit with room to spare. And I think it's amazing to a lot of people because they look at the vehicle and it's just hard to picture how they fit into it and stuff. But we've been getting reports that it's just really easy to get in and out of. It really feels great when you're in it. How have you been able to do that?
Yeah, Jason Hill and the design team has done an amazing job with, really characterizing, the ergonomic needs of people. The Aptera is a unique vehicle. The aerodynamic shape means you're kind of, laid back more like you're in a sports car than you would be in an SUV. So making that seating position comfortable and making, the steering angle and the vision system that's in front of you. And now most of the functions for the vehicle, there's only 3 buttons in the Aptera. There's 2 door buttons and a hazard switch. Those are the only buttons. Everything else is on the screen. So, accessibility to that screen and, the ergonomics of that is super, super important. But, it was 8 months ago or so, they had an interior buck up in LA. They had 150 people or so sit in it and, characterize everything. And that's the knowledge that went into Gamma to build out that interior. So I think, the very first ones we built, the Alpha series did not have the benefit of any of that. We had to just make a lot of assumptions and just build that vehicle. And, it was functional and it was drivable, but, it was lacking in a lot of ways. So, we learned a lot from Alpha, and then we were able to, really characterize Beta, and then all that knowledge fed into Gamma. So we were lucky enough to, be at the Fully Charged show and, have a great showing. And we kind of brought our own fan base. Over 100 of our ambassadors flew in to see that vehicle. And I think it was an amazing experience to see how people really interact with the vehicle. I could imagine sitting in the seat for 600 miles. I think that the visibility looks great. I was worried, that I wouldn't be able to see behind me and stuff like that. So it really is a credit to Jason and his team to work through all those details, but it's coming together nicely.
One of the biggest topics at our lunch table here at Now You Know is Aptera. I've got to ask this question for our editor, Bobby. He said, you have to ask Chris this question. When am I getting my Aptera? And so I think the number one question a lot of people just want to know is like, when will it be available? So what are your thoughts on like kind of general availability? I know that California is going to get it first, and that makes total sense. But like, what are your thoughts on the next step outside of California?
Everything on our production ramp is funding dependent. Should the funding gods open up to us, it takes Pablo's team would tell you about 7 months to start production from the time he gets his first equipment. And a lot of those equipment, it's big checks, $1 million checks to buy some of this equipment and tooling. So, we hope that we can bring the pieces of the funding puzzle together here towards the end of the year and be solidly in production in 2023. Having said that, if we build many vehicles in 2023, it depends on where you are on that list. We'll obviously deliver to California, Southern California first, because those are going to be the people that are easy to get to. And if we have early problems, we really want to take care of those customers. And we want to get feedback because, a lot of other automotive style programs design a vehicle and put a pin in it and then do not change that vehicle for years into the future. But I think, giving Tesla much credit in the way that they have rolling changes in their assembly line is really cool. They find a better product, they find a better manufacturing method, they find something that's better for the user, and they just implement that. So we want to do that too. When we have the first 500 Aptera on the road, we're going to get a ton of feedback. And, somebody's going to say, the position of this is ugh, or, the way this feels is ugh. And hopefully we can make that better over time and really quickly. So we think it's important to, ship those first vehicles close to home. But we want to be around the world as quickly as possible because, we would love to, have these vehicles in Australia and, in England and Europe. And, we think that they will really be advertising pieces almost everywhere that they go because, there's going to be nothing that's more unique driving around the streets of wherever you are than an Aptera. So we hope to ship around the nation very quickly. I would say in 2024, and then around the world, soon after. So, I don't know where your producer is in the ranks of orders, but obviously you guys will see some of the first vehicles because we want your feedback. So,
talk to me a little bit about some of the funding puzzle pieces, as you put it. What are some of the pieces that you're looking for? Are there, if people are watching at home and they're just like, how can I help? I know a lot of people want to help as much as they can. What are some of the things that they can do? And also, what are some of the, larger forces at play?
Yeah, we currently have a crowdfunding open. It's called a Reg A Plus Tier 2 offering per the SEC, but that allows individuals with more than $1,000 to contribute to a business that they are inspired by, or really want to help foster that business model. Come with $1,000 and you can invest in early Aptera. Wouldn't it have been nice to be able to invest in early Tesla or early Google? But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it just wasn't available. There was no mechanism for people to invest in stuff like that. You had to be rich, you had to be in a fund, it just wasn't accessible to common people. But now, since 2009, there was a Jobs Act passed, and in 2015, the SEC finally solidified instructions on how to use it. And by 2017, it's like, okay, people started to figure out, okay, this would be called crowdfunding. But it wasn't really until 2019 that anything kind of happened in the crowdfunding space. So it's really kind of a new mechanism for people to invest in great ideas like this. But one way to support Aptera is just go to invest.aptera.us and invest. We have over 15,000 investors supporting this project now, which is just mind-boggling. But that's the first way. The other pieces of that funding puzzle, are larger checks, basically. High net worth people, family offices, venture capital, institutional investors. Those are the types of people that we're talking to now to get the many millions of dollars that we need to buy this big equipment and such. So if you know someone in that space, we say we're only one inspired billionaire away from having this company fully funded. But it really is just that. We think we're going to meet that right person, that right fund, that right institution that says solar mobility is the future. I get it. Vehicles should be made for efficiency. There's a place for large SUVs and pickup trucks in the EV market, but we think, really to move this world forward, there needs to be a large segment of vehicles that are focused on efficiency. And we focus on efficiency first. Solar power is a nice, attribute that we can add after. And we think that it just makes the value proposition incredible, from a business perspective. Hey, zero fuel cost transportation, that will change the world.
Anuj, a question for you about the solar. How much of this have you kind of learned on the job? Like, it seems like the kind of thing where no one's done this before, so it's not like you can learn it in school of like, I'm
no
going
textbook.
to like solar, vehicle 101. Like, So what was it like to be hired as head of solar? Like, did you just come in there with all these ideas and you knew what to do, or did you have to and I know you were sitting next to your boss, so you can just do like this and just.
Anuj has a big old brain. So really
well, so I think the challenge of solar is one that's very well understood, and that there are a number of limitations on how the environment impacts pre-existing solar cells and solar cell technologies. So you're actually able to operate within a somewhat reasonable framework, in that very early on you can create, let's say, a target specification for the product. In that, hey, we're creating a solar panel, uses a solar cell technology that is novel to an extent, but also decently well understood. And we have a couple new constraints for the weight of the product, as well as the geometry that we're trying to match with that product. So from that perspective, the challenge ends up being, I'd say, twofold. One is a material science challenge. So you end up having a lot of material science to work on to try and create this lightweight product. And the second is actually a manufacturing challenge. I would say that a lot of our intellectual property is on the manufacturing side of these panels. So when we first started this project to try and develop 2-axis curved solar, it's okay, let's define what our key challenges are, what key metrics we want these solar panels to achieve, and start doing the materials and manufacturing in order to achieve that. Now, from my perspective, I've been through production environments before, and a lot of companies will fall prey to designing engineering without manufacturing in mind. And so very early on, the question that I had, and I think I shared this in a recent video, was not how do we build one? It was how do we build 1,000 or 1,000,000 of these? And so we started to think about both, okay, what are all the materials we can use, and how would these fit into a high volume manufacturing process in the future? What I'm actually really excited to be able to have achieved, and it was not an easy thing to do, is to actually have developed a manufacturing process that could actually enable a nearly 10-minute changeover time if, for example, we wanted to use a 7-layer stack up or a 12-layer stack up or a 5-layer. We've worked on the materials and manufacturing side to be able to adapt our manufacturing process for any issues we might see in the field. Instead of having a 2-3 week changeover on the line, in just a few minutes, you could replace some of the materials that you may have specified using our manufacturing process. Yeah, we've operated within a framework of what our requirements are, some of the environmental conditions that are very well known in solar, as well as some of the new requirements or conditions that the panels would be exposed to in an automotive environment. And we've been working on the manufacturing challenge from the very beginning, which I think has really enabled us to, have this low volume line here that's producing panels at 10 a day.
What if you just design the Aptera to have a flat section and you just slap a standard old solar panel on there, call it a day, and it works on the roof of a house for 20, 30 years, you should be good. You pay a little more for the high efficiency, maybe 300-400 watts, and you go, what are we wasting all this time and money for trying to develop curved panels? We got flat panels all day, and the back of the Aptera is relatively flat. Who cares? Well, why not do that?
So there are a number of reasons. Let's figure out where to start. I think one is we've really been trying to design the vehicle from an efficiency first standpoint, and there are two considerations there. The first is the geometry of the vehicle leads to the geometry that we have, or the aerodynamics of the vehicle leads to the geometry that we have now. And that really does lead to pretty dramatic curves in some areas, where if you actually try to slap a flat panel in there, you have to lower that panel to such a significant level that you start to intrude into the cabin space, or the space where a user's head might be, for example. The second is actually weight. So if you start to slap a standard panel into the Aptera, you add a lot of weight to the vehicle. At that point, you might end up having either a clear polymer or a glass-based shell over the panel, and you already have a pre-encapsulated panel that's flat and has the resistance to oxygen, water vapor. You're doubling up on weight and really starting to slap together a solution rather than build something that was designed for the Aptera as a vehicle. So, of course, the challenge of manufacturing curved panels is one that, well, it's a challenge, but it enables us to create a better product as a whole.
One of the biggest questions that we get back, I think, has to do with the Tesla charger. A lot of people are like, are they going to be the first non-Tesla vehicle with a Tesla charger on board? And where do you guys stand with that?
On the Tesla charge plug, we had that petition. We think that it's the best technology out there. Slim form factor, it just works. We think that as a nation, we would be better off if we adopted Tesla supercharging infrastructure and just wrote Elon a check Say, here, go build this infrastructure for us. You guys are the best at it. You're doing it, at a fifth of the cost of some of these other infrastructure projects. So, perfect. Make everybody Tesla superchargers. We are working still hard to have the best engineering in the Aptera when it comes to charge plugs and adapters. And we, hope that in the next few months we'll be able to show and announce and talk about that further. But that's our aspiration. We're bleeding edge engineering in everything from solar to our in-wheel motors to our battery pack technologies to our body and carbon. Why should the charge plug be any different? We think it should be bleeding edge engineering too, and Tesla is that.
How hard is it because I know that you're both very talented, engineers and business people, and it must be so tempting to just be like, I would love to jump down a rabbit hole of all the games we could play on the center console. How hard is it to stay focused when you have this community of people who are so chomping at the bit and thinking so far outside the box of all the different ways that they could use their vehicles for fun? Do you want to stay focused? Do you want to have all of these things to kind of look forward to?
Wait, is that another job you want? You want to be like Aptera's head of
no,
craziness?
I'm just there's so many crazy fun things,
Well, so on the solar end, I think it's very exciting to think about all the new applications for our technology. And the approach that I will take is I will, I have a notebook where I keep track of all the new fun, crazy ideas. And sometimes I'll spend a couple minutes a week and think about, okay, if this were something we wanted to implement in the future, how would that affect my design today? And if that is a very small requirement that's not actually a significant cost adder or does not add a lot of engineering effort, I'll actually incorporate some of those requirements into the design today so that maybe 3 years down the road, we're starting to incorporate this new feature or this new value add development, and it would just enable that technology to be easier to implement in the future. For other projects that may be much more cost or R&D intensive, honestly, I'll simply take a note of it. I think it's very nice to have this is the future list. But I think that we really are laser focused on getting this product out the door, and we are trying to say, okay, what do we need to do today to build a robust solar product or Aptera product so that we can get these in the hands of customers as soon as possible.
Yeah, luckily our engineering team and Pablo's manufacturing team are well shielded from those, from that kind of feedback. Our wonderful communications team fields most of that, but I love it. I relish that people are envisioning Aptera in their lives, and wouldn't it be cool if I had this? Wouldn't it be great if? That means that they're really, building, their perception of the future around Aptera, and I think it's humbling to to think that we will be able to impact people's lives in terms of their impact on the planet, in terms of how much money they have to spend on transportation, decreasing their time on having to plug the vehicle in or fuel the vehicle. All these things are impactful to people's lives, and I think it's I just can't wait for the next 5 years to unfold, and for us to have hundreds of thousands of Aptera on the road and to really make a difference in the world.
Thank you guys. Thanks for taking time out of your busy days. I know that you guys are super busy working on the ramp, so thanks for talking to us today. And for anyone watching who hasn't been to Aptera's website yet, I urge you to go over there, check out all the different offerings, use our referral code down below if you'd like to, because you got to get in line if you want to get one of the first ones.
Yes, sir. You guys are going to have a wonderful lot of Aptera, hopefully to test because of that referral code, and I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to have like an Aptera parade. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, we're super excited, and we want to be your New England testers, so we can tell you, how it stands up to the New England roads and the New England weather.
Pothole testing at its finest.
Awesome. Thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
The future's bright.
Back to work. Back to work.
Back to work.
Back to work. Nice.